Welcome back to JJ & Co Coaching. Today we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome at its finest. So, imposter syndrome is often associated with newbies in business, but it can show up in experienced entrepreneurs and coaches. Let's define what exactly imposter syndrome is. It's a psychological pattern in which individuals doubt their abilities and feel like frauds, even though they're faced with evidence that proves otherwise. So, this can start manifesting as fear and being exposed as a fake, or feeling like the success is due to like luck versus skill. So, imposter syndrome can be triggered by a variety of different factors, such as lack of experience, high standards in yourself, or high standards in the industry, as well as the fear of failure. That's a really big one. So, let's talk about imposter syndrome in experienced entrepreneurs and coaches. So, experienced entrepreneurs and coaches are not immune to imposter syndrome by any means, shape, or form. In fact, they are actually more susceptible to feeling the feelings of imposter syndrome than a newbie in business would, right? And this is because they achieve more success and recognition, and the pressure that comes along with that and maintaining that level of success can be super overwhelming. You may feel like you're constantly having to prove yourself, and you may fear that you'll never be able to live up to your clients' expectations because of how much you've been put up on this pedestal. So this can start leading to self-doubt and feeling like you're an imposter in your industry. So why is it that those that are more accomplished or, more seasoned in business feel imposter syndrome way more than a newbie would? Well, there are a few reasons for this. And one of them is that the industry is constantly evolving, with new technologies, new trends, new techniques, new strategies are emerging all the time. This can lead you feeling like you're always playing catch up and that you're never truly experienced or an expert in your field because of all these new things that constantly come around. But we all know that that's not true, right? It's not just because you may not be up to date on the trend does not mean that you don't have the experience, the skill, or the knowledge to, help people in your industry, in your niche, right? Um, Another reason is that the more successful you become, the higher the stakes get. So when you feel like you have more to lose, you have that pressure of maintaining your success in what you've already achieved, right? So this can lead to the constant fear of feeling like if you take one misstep, you will lose your whole business and you'll be exposed as a fraud, right? But the truth is that imposter syndrome is not based in reality. It is based on feelings and not fact. And when it's difficult to overcome these feelings, there are strategies that we can use to help overcome imposter syndrome. But before we dive into that, I want to look at the flip side of a newbie in business. So we looked at an experienced person in business and how imposter syndrome can show up for them. But let's also talk about how imposter syndrome shows up for newbies, right? So when you're a newbie in business, imposter syndrome is huge. It shows up all the time. Why? Because you are learning new skills. Not only are you trying to establish yourself as a leader in the industry, but you're also trying to grow a business alongside and make an ROI on your investments, right? So it can be really daunting when you're coming up with all these trends, all these different, like you hear all these different experts in the field talk about different things and they may have opposing views on things. And it's like, who do I listen to? Who do I follow? Who can help me? And you can have this feeling of overwhelm because you're not sure where to start and you're not sure how to get yourself running. right? So that's one thing that can lead you. The other thing is figuring out how to actually set up your business, right? Whether you're using only social media to do marketing, whether you have a website, whether you're selling products or services, whether you're just doing services, if you're in person, online, and then setting it up, setting your automation, setting up your emails, collecting emails, starting to build that audience, that relationship, and then these feelings of, can I actually lead them? Do I have enough experience to actually help these people? Can I ever help these people? Will I ever make sales? Who am I to tell them how they should run X, Y, Z, right? And all these feelings of fear and inadequacy start coming up. And that is imposter syndrome at its finest, right? It shows up when we are stepping out of our comfort zone. And this goes for both an experienced business owner and a newbie. Imposter syndrome shows up when you are about to up level. I'm going to say that one more time because you need to hear that. Imposter syndrome shows up when you are at the beginning stages of up leveling. Okay. So when you up level, you are growing out of your comfort zone. You are moving from one step to the other, and that causes imposter syndrome. And when that happens, we need to keep moving forward. We need to keep pushing ourselves further. Why? Because this is how we grow in our business, right? This is how we grow. When we start seeing those fear signs come up, it means because we are at the precipice of something greater, right? And so I talk a lot about the ego in my programs and offerings for mindset portion of how our brains work. And when the ego shows up, that's that little voice inside your head that is telling you that you're not good enough, that you can't be successful, that if you make a mistake, you'll lose your whole business. If you try something different, no one will follow you, no one will buy from you. You'll start losing your clientele. If you raise your prices, no one's going to buy from you. All these things start happening when you start taking action that is outside of your comfort zone, when you start stepping into the leader that you are becoming, the ego comes in and says, hey, girl, put the brakes on, stay where you are, don't move. We like where you're at. So it's our job to witness and recognize it and keep moving forward. Because when we keep moving forward, we start growing and scaling our business, right? 90% of the people who hear the ego, who hear the thoughts of doubt, who allow it to overtake them, quit right before their business explodes. 90% of people, that is a huge percentile, right? So when we hear percentages like that, 90% of people quit right before they're about to, expand their business. This is like, you need to be that 10% that keeps going, that keeps moving forward, that continues to do action steps that are out of your comfort zone so that you can keep growing and scaling your business. And I'm going to tell you how to start overcoming imposter syndrome. That way you can keep moving forward. So the first thing you need to do is you need to recognize that you have imposter syndrome creeping in. This means that you need to acknowledge the thoughts and feelings that are coming out, the feelings of doubting yourself, doubting your abilities, doubting your worth, and start recognizing them when they come in. So if you start having thoughts of, I don't deserve success, I'm not as good as everyone thinks, I'm not as good as the next person, like, who am I to be teaching this? Who's going to listen to me? I don't have enough experience. Start recognizing that these thoughts are coming through your head. Okay. That's the first step. If you don't recognize that they're creeping in, you'll never be able to change your thought pattern because these subconscious thoughts are created from our past and lived experiences, as well as our environment that we grew up in, right? From the age of 1 to 7, you start understanding feelings, thoughts, critical thinking, and you start developing your own opinion on things. And when we continue to live in the past, it's brought through into our present. And if we don't recognize that these are mindset shifts that we want and don't want in our life anymore, then we'll never be able to change it. If that's a pattern that you no longer wish to have because it's no longer serving you, then we need to change it. And the only way you can change it is if you can recognize when the pattern is arising. So that's the first thing you need to do. The second thing is to reframe your way of thinking. So this helps to undo what our subconscious is telling us and retrain the brain that that's not how we think anymore. That's not how we believe anymore. And it will actually help recreate your belief system in yourself, in your abilities, as well as in your business, right? So instead of focusing on what you perceive is your weakness or shortcoming, try focusing on your strengths and your accomplishments, right? Because we all have strengths and accomplishments. It is really easy for people to come up with a list of their weaknesses and their shortcomings. If you ask someone to write a list of 10 things, of 10 weaknesses and 10 shortcomings that they have, they will write that list really quickly. But if you ask them to then write 10 strengths and 10 accomplishments, they will have a harder time coming up with it. Why? It's not because they don't have the strength or the accomplishments. It's because of their belief in themselves, right? We are so hard and so critical on ourselves that we don't recognize all the amazing things that we've accomplished, all the strength, all the resilience that we have, that we forget about it, right? Because it's easier to look at the negative. Because from a very young age, we've been conditioned to always live in this negative state, right? And so we need to retrain and, reframe how we think about ourselves and our abilities. So instead of, allowing imposter syndrome to creep up and say, I don't deserve success, switch it and say, I am worthy of achieving success. I am worthy of achieving the success that I desire, right? That sounds a hell of a lot better than I don't deserve success, right? So change the way you think, change the way you speak about yourself. If you're constantly bringing yourself down, change how you say it. Instead of saying, I'm no good at this, say, I am open to learning new skills. See how much better that is than I'm no good at this? Because there are things that we're not good at. But if we continue to reinforce our subconscious saying that we're no good at this, we're no good at this, we're no good at this, we'll never want to learn it. We'll never change. Anytime we'll come up with a challenge or an obstacle, we're automatically going to think, I'm no good at this, instead of I am open to learning new skills. When we are open to learning new skills and we change and reframe how we look at our issues or our perceived struggles, things change for you rapidly. Just remember that when imposter syndrome comes up at any point in your career, in your business venture, in your business journey, it is not a direct reflection of your skills and your abilities, but rather a feeling that you've created, a feeling. When you recognize and take the steps to start overcoming those feelings of doubt, those feelings of fear, those feelings of being inadequate, you can move past all those insecurities and continue to grow a thriving business, right? Because that is what we want to do. We want to grow and scale our businesses so they're thriving. And when you recognize the thoughts and the feelings that are creeping in, you can reframe how you're thinking them and change your perspective so that it's actually serving you instead of being a disservice to you. Remember, you are not alone, and you are so capable of achieving great things in your business. If you found this really helpful, don't forget to subscribe to my channel to get more trainings just like this one. And I'll see you next time.